Hey coaches, it's me, Don Miller, and today we're going to talk about your website. That is your coaching website, the website that convinces clients to do business with you. It is obviously very, very important. It's important for a couple reasons. One, it's your offer. If people go to your website and they don't understand how you can change their life, they're just not going to do business with you. So your offer needs to be crystal clear. That's reason number one. The second is if you don't have a crystal clear offer on your website and you don't have a good coaching website, you actually look like an amateur. And so people aren't going to do business with you because you look like such an amateur. So the question is, what makes a good coaching website? Well, there are 4 critical questions that you have got to answer for the client on that website. In today's video, I'm going to go through all 4. Also, we're going to look at some coaches' websites that are coaches that are inside the Coach Builder platform. These are Coach Builder members, just like hopefully you will become. And they have the advantage of inside the Coach Builder platform, we have website templates, but we also have a website building or a wireframe building piece of software that we've created so that you can actually drag and drop different pieces of a website, fill in the text that is so important, and then print it out or send it to a designer and have them design it for you. Or if you want to, you can design it yourself. But today is all about building an amazing coaching website that will grow your coaching business. And before we get going, make sure to stay until the very end, because at the end of this video, I'm going to tell you how you can get a PDF with 27 different coaches' websites. These are websites that are doing extremely well for real live coaches. They're out there on the internet. We have scoured the internet and found the best coaching websites, put them all in one PDF, and I'm going to tell you how to get that when we're done. The very first website I want to look at is my friend Jim Williamson's website. Jim is a Coach Builder member, and he has a terrific website. He did a terrific job. He read Building a Story Brand. He understands everything that needs to be in a website. And so let's look at that first. The first thing, Jim has a picture of himself, and so you see, how old he is. Does he look put together? And Jim's a great-looking guy, and so I think people are going to want to do business with him. But he also does something very important in what we call the header of the website. You have a header that's going to buy you about 4 seconds. I mean, people will literally go to your website without reading anything and bounce. The reason is they didn't see anything or sense anything that was going to help them survive and thrive. And so you know how it is. People are scatterbrained these days. We're bombarded with information. The brain literally says, don't pay any attention to this. There's nothing here that's going to help me survive. So above the header, you need to answer a question in large text, and Jim does it very well here. And the question is, the first of 4 questions, what problem can you solve for me? What problem can you solve for me? I believe that your header needs to answer that question. It is by far the most important of the 4 questions. Jim does a good job. Stop spinning your wheels and start scaling your business. So the problem is I'm spinning my wheels, I'm not getting anywhere, my business isn't growing, and Jim is going to help you do that. Now, Jim happens to be a business coach, but that's what he does, right? And so he got the problem right there right away. Now, notice something else that Jim is doing on this website. He's not doing a whole lot more. He's not doing a whole lot more in the header except buying that extra few seconds. The viewer is going to give you about 4 seconds. If you pass the test in 4 seconds, you know what? They're going to give you 4 more seconds. That's it. Now, they're going to give you a little bit more after that as they get into it. But if you can get them to give you 8 seconds, it's actually a really long time. You can read a lot in 8 seconds. So if you've got stuff about how you're a mom or you're a dad or you used to work at IBM or none of that has anything to do with their felt need, their problem. That's really about you. So make the header about the customer. Here's the problem that I can help you solve. You want that problem to be pretty broad so you're attracting the largest number of potential clients, but to make it feel specific, right? And so Jim does a pretty good job. Stop spinning your wheels and start scaling your business. Another thing that he does is he says, book your free discovery call right here. It's important that you've got the big text that identifies the problem, and then right off the bat, here's how you can get in touch with me, and here's how you can do business with me. A couple reasons for that. One is let's say this is the 6th or 7th time they've gone to your website. They're not going to buy the first time they go to your website. It's really the second, third. They keep hearing about you. Maybe you had lunch with them a week ago, whatever. They're going to keep going back to your website, and you always want what I call the "Will you marry me" button right here at all times. Now, they're not going to marry you on the first date, but the 5th or 6th time they go to your website, they're going to say, you know what, I'm willing to commit. Let me book a discovery call and find out a little bit more about this. So we've got to answer the question, what problem do you solve? And then we've got to say, do you want me to solve it for you? Book your free discovery call. After we get that 8 seconds, they're going to go ahead and give you about 10 more seconds. So let's see what happens as we start scrolling down. First of all, Jim does say one-on-one and group coaching to help grow your small business. This is really important right here because it actually answers the second question that your client has. So we're still in the header, and we're already answering 2 questions. Great job, Jim Williamson. The second question is, how do you solve my problem? And a lot of coaches will leave this out. They won't put the fact that they do one-on-one coaching or masterminds or small groups or workshops, or you can hire me as a fractional COO or CEO or CFO. They don't put that on the website, and subconsciously your client is saying, but how does this work? If you're a restaurant and you just offer protein, that's too vague. It is true. You offer protein. But that is way too vague of an offer for anybody to actually respond to. You're going to sell a lot more protein when you call it a cheeseburger or beef enchiladas or whatever you want to sell in the form of protein. You've got to get pretty specific. We help you stop spinning your wheels and scale your business, and I do this in a one-on-one coaching and a mastermind and so on. The menu is getting clear. Now, you've already answered 2 questions, Jim. Fantastic. Those are 2 big, giant questions. And notice another thing that Jim got right here is he didn't use any extra words. Stop spinning your wheels and start scaling your business. That is what problem do you solve. One-on-one coaching, group coaching to help you grow your small business. So one-on-one or group coaching is how he solves it, and there's no other words. Let's not throw a bunch of words that nobody needs. In Greg McKeown's words, these would be the essential ideas that he wants to communicate. And many of us as coaches are just throwing way too much information, way too many ideas at our potential clients. All right, we've got a what I call a value stack beneath the header. There's just 3 things. I love the rule of 3. The brain loves 3. By the way, the reason the brain loves 3 is it sees 1 as too little, 2 as binary, but 3 as infinite. 1 is too little, 2 is binary, 3 is you've covered all the options. Why the brain thinks that there are only 3 options, I don't know, but it does. And so if you have 3 things in the value stack, the brain really likes that. So what do you get? The value stack that you're getting from Jim is a booming business, an aligned staff, and a joyful spirit. A booming business, an aligned staff, and a joyful spirit. And notice there's not a lot of text that says, I really want your business to grow, and if you really want your business to boom, and none of that, just booming business, aligned staff, joyful spirit. If you asked a waitress, how's your cheeseburger, and she said, fantastic, so juicy, melts in the mouth, I'm buying that cheeseburger, right? So you don't need to say a lot of stuff. Don't get wordy with this. Just kind of throw some punchy adjectives at your reader in the value stack. All right, let's keep going down. The most common obstacles to growing a small business. Now, again, he goes kind of negative here. What I mean by negative is he's talking again about problems that he solves. It is very important that you keep bringing up the problem that your customer has, because the problem is the hook. The problem is what makes your offer interesting. I always say talk 75% about your customer's problem and 25% about the solution that you offer to that problem, and you're going to sell a lot more solutions. 75% about the problem, 25% about the solution. What does that mean for you? Talk 75% about your client's problems and only 25% about your coaching. Why? Because when you talk about the problem, it makes them want to buy the coaching. If you only talk about the coaching and you don't talk about the problem, they don't have a reason to buy the medicine. If I said to you, I've got some medicine here, it has acetaminophen in it, it has, give you a bunch of technical terms, you're going to go, yeah, I don't think I'm interested. That fascinating. Congratulations on creating some medicine. But if I say, man, if you've got allergies, I mean, if this time of year everything is bothering, you're sniffling all the time, you can't sleep, you're sneezing, you got a runny nose that gets all messy. The more I talk about it, and then I say, I've got some medicine, it's called this, that makes you want to buy the medicine itself because I've identified and empathized so strongly with your problem. So once we get through that 18 seconds, 4 seconds in the header buys you 4 more. 4 more is how do you do this and what's in it for me, the value stack. Now I'm in for 10 seconds. I think the 10 seconds, once you get through that, you've got them for at least another minute. And the great thing to get that third tier, that 10 seconds, is to start talking about their problems. And so look what Jim does here. The most common obstacles to growing a small business, and then he just spells it out. Can you relate to these struggles? You feel overwhelmed, you're confused, you're scared. Now, notice something else Jim gets right here. You can scan this site and just read overwhelmed, or if you're into that minute now where they've given you a minute and you've earned the right to be heard, there's a little bit more to read. People scan websites before they read them. Very important to understand. They will scan a website before they read them. Are you overwhelmed by the work and responsibilities piling up around you? Are you confused about what the right moves actually are to grow your business? Are you scared you're going to fail like so many other small businesses? Now notice it's very negative, and this is something that a lot of people are afraid to do. They don't want to go negative on their website. They want to be bright and cheery. This is a mistake. It's a mistake. There is no positivity without negativity. They just have to be in contrast. So do not be afraid to go negative, especially, I like, negative, stop spinning your wheels, start scaling your business, negative, overwhelmed, confused, scared. You would think that Jim Williamson is really negative, but did you ever feel that? When I was reading you that website, you never felt that at all. So let's not be afraid to go negative. All right, so then Jim has earned the right to be heard. And notice, Jim doesn't really talk about himself at all in the first 2 seconds, that 4, 4, 10, 4 seconds, 4 seconds, 10 seconds, that earns you a minute. He doesn't talk about himself at all. He talks about you. Brilliant, because everybody is wondering, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? Now, when I understand, there's something really good in here for me, I'm suddenly curious about who Jim Williamson is. And some of you, unrelated to websites, you're wondering, why don't people pay attention to me? Well, it's probably because you're talking about yourself all the time and you're not doing a good job listening. If you really want to connect with people, understand their problems, empathize with those problems, listen to those problems, they will feel cared about, they will feel heard, and their response to that will be, who are you? I want to get to know you because you are this amazing person who likes me and understands me. If we lead with ourselves, forget it. It's not going to work. So Jim does the right thing, and he puts that in section 3 of the website. He says, I'm here to help. I'm here to help, but watch what Jim does because it's actually fascinating. Let's read this. Launching a business is hard enough. Growing it can be even harder. Jim says, I'm here to help. He has a picture of himself there, and he still makes it about you. He's not done talking about you. Launching a business is hard enough. Growing it can be even harder. It requires a whole new set of skills and abilities, many that don't come naturally to people who love the thrill of creation. It's a common problem, but luckily it has a guaranteed solution. Now notice what this looks like. This looks like it's Jim's bio. This looks like it's going to be all about Jim. But there's a picture of Jim, and he's continuing to empathize with you. This is another thing. Now, it's not one of the 4 major questions, but it is a question. Do you care about me? Is this going to be all about you? Are you going to be able to listen? Are you going to be able to hear me out? We've all been in conversations where we would say something like, my goodness, I was almost killed in a car accident yesterday in a head-on collision. A guy came right at me, and the person you're talking to says, oh my word, that happened to me 2 years ago. Like, shouldn't you stop and go, man, are you okay? You look fine. What happened? You should actually pay attention. So Jim is doing that. He has rattled some feathers up here in section 1 and section 2, and now he's saying, it's not about me yet. I am about you. Really critical. Like anything else, scaling a business is about doing the right things, okay? Another thing that Jim does here that's really important, he opens a story loop. What are the right things? The right ways and the right times. Now he's opening story loops that make me wonder, this guy's got some wisdom that I could use here. Guessing your way forward, which is what most people do, again, negative, is a recipe for failure. Stakes. Now, stakes are really important. What's going to happen to you if you don't hire me as a coach? Failure is going to happen to you. But following the lead of someone who has already done it, now he's getting himself in the narrative. We're already in the minute. We're into that minute that they've given us after giving us 4 seconds and 4 seconds and 10 seconds. We're into that minute. And he's finally positioning himself as the guide for the hero to win the day. If you're not familiar with that, read my book, Building a Story Brand. It talks about the importance of being the guide and not playing the hero as it relates to being a coach. I will show you the way, a recipe for success. I've been there, I've done that, and I'd love to show you how to do it too. I've been there and I've done that is a way that Jim, he's positioning himself as a guide here. He's expressing empathy for the client's potential problem, and he's saying, look, I was there too. We trust people who have been in the hole we are in, but are no longer in the hole. So they are on top of the hole. They're looking down into the hole, and they're saying, hey, buddy, I've been right where you've been, and there's a way out. Now imagine if you are literally in a hole, you've fallen down a well, and somebody, you've been yelling for an hour, can't get out, and somebody pokes their head over the hole and says, my goodness, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay, I just can't get out. Okay, believe it or not, I've actually been down there, and there's a way out. That will flood you with hope. Flood you with hope. So good move, Jim Williamson. All right, now another thing that Jim does is he's got a product called the Entrepreneur's Advantage. Jim actually named his product. He created a menu of products. I happen to know that because I know Jim. He created a menu of products, and one of them is called the Entrepreneur's Advantage. People like buying products from coaches rather than just coaching. So if you go to a restaurant and you say, what do you guys have here? And they say food. We've got really, really great food. You're going to get laughter from that table, right? So if somebody comes to you and says, what do you do and what do you offer? I offer coaching. That's the equivalent of offering food. They're not going to tell you. They're not going to laugh at you. They're just going to go, oh, that's interesting. In fact, they may not even know that that's weird or there's something wrong. They're just not going to buy it, right? Well, I have a program called the Entrepreneur's Advantage. I meet with you for 6 months, and I help you I diagnose your business, and I help you create competitive advantages in 6 different categories, right? Leadership, marketing, sales, product optimization, overhead management, cash flow, those sorts of things. Wow, you're getting really specific, and I can get my mind around what this actually is, which dramatically increases the chances that I'm going to buy it. So create products. And then he's got more on that second question. How do you do this? How do you help me solve my problem right over here on the left? So he's answering those questions really, really well. Another thing that Jim does is fantastic. He's got some testimonials. And testimonials, we all have testimonials on our website, but Jim did something really good here. He kept it pretty short. I mean, this is less than a sentence or about a sentence. That's kind of it. Now, testimonials, one great thing about testimonials, it's your opportunity to sell. And you say, Don, people have written me testimonials, and they're really long. The people who are giving you the testimonials are not writers, and they're not marketers. So what you actually want to do is you want to write their testimonial for them. That's right. You want to write it for them. Then you want to call them, and you want to say, hey, I've heard you say that your business has doubled since you started coaching with me. Can I say my business doubled since I started working with Jim Williamson on my website? And they are going to say yes. The shorter, the better, because your testimonials, if you just ask for an endorsement, are going to be way too long-winded. So really great thing that is Jim's doing right here. Now, the third question that you've got to answer on your website is, will this work? Will this work? And Jim answers that question right here in the form of a testimonial. It has worked for others. If I look at this and say, you know what, I got a business, looks like about, this guy is a pastor of a church. Jim did some counseling with him, or some coaching with him. So, if I'm a pastor of a church, I'm thinking this is going to be great. You want to pick the demographic of people, by the way, that you want to work with the most and just include their testimonials. So let's go through the three questions. What problem do you solve? How do you actually solve it? And does it work? We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections into the website. We have now earned more than a minute, and we've answered 3 of the critical questions that you've got to answer. All right, now let's go back. The second question was, how does it work? So what does Jim say on his website? How does it work? Why not just be on the nose with it? So a 3-step plan: book your discovery call, design the strategy, implement, and win. 3 steps. People love 3 baby steps. They're much more likely to move into a situation if you give them some baby steps. The reason is there's this cognitive dissonance when we're going to buy something. And right before we buy it, we're really ready to part with the money. We actually say to ourselves, gosh, will this work? And I've been ripped off before, and I've spent so much money on things that don't work. And, how long is this going to take? And, is this going to take a ton of my time? Those are all subconscious questions that float up in the brain. And so what you want to be able to do is offer them some little baby steps they can take toward your product, so that they don't feel that risk. You're mitigating a lot of risk, and you're easing the subconscious questions. You're lowering the fog. People are much more likely to walk in if you have a 3-step plan. So how does this work? I book a discovery call. We design our strategy together, and I implement the strategy. All right, so we've answered what problem do you solve, how do you solve it, and will this work for me? And then, not to the 4th question yet, but then we've got a lead generator that Jim puts on the site. So in exchange for your name and email address, you get an assessment that you get to take. It happens to be an assessment that Coach Builder coaches, that we made for our Coach Builder coaches, so that if somebody takes the assessment, that person gets their response, but so does the coach, which gives them a reason to call them and say, hey, I've got your assessment here. I'd love to talk to you about some problems. Maybe you ever got that call from your doctor? Hey, can we talk about your test results? Give me a call. Your HDL and LDL are high, or your HDL is too low, or whatever. We're going to talk about the problem that we have discovered. That is a fantastic lead generator. Now, if you don't have a lead generator on your website, you need one, because this is a first date, maybe a second date, maybe a third date in terms of the relational, connection that you're having with the potential client. They're not going to buy from you until the 12th or 13th or 4th date. Nobody marries somebody after the first or second date. And this is a big commitment. It's going to cost me a lot of money. It's going to cost me a lot of time. So I'm only doing this if I'm really familiar with you. The reason that you want to offer an assessment or a lead generator of some sort is so that you can email this person at least once a week for at least 12 weeks and preferably 52 weeks. Literally 52 weeks in a row. In fact, if you become a member of the Coach Builder community, we give you a plug-and-play CRM. I pay $1,500 to keep a CRM out of Arizona and give you a plug-and-play CRM. You enter your potential clients' email addresses in that. We've written 52 emails for you that go to that potential client. Why do we do that? Well, we do that because it's a big purchase that they're making. It's a relational commitment that they're making. It's a time commitment that they're making, and they don't make that with anybody they aren't familiar with. If they don't trust you, they're not going to make that purchase. What's the key to building trust? Value over time. The final question, and Jim answers that question here in this section. However, there's a better way. I'm not going to let Jim off the hook. There's at least one thing that he can do better, and that is it worth it? So the 4 questions. What problem do you solve? How do you solve it? Will it work for me? And is it worth it? So even if it works for me, is it worth the cost? And so that question is answered a little bit in these testimonials, but the truth is Jim could actually offer some statistics here. 63% of my clients see at least a 20% increase in revenue. Or so far, 20 of my clients have doubled the revenue of their small business. Get some statistics right here that answer the question, is it worth it? Because obviously they're going to pay you for your time. Is it worth it? If you can answer those questions, you're doing really, really great. So the only thing I would say to Jim is let's add some statistics that answer the question, is it worth it? But Jim does a fantastic job answering the 4 critical questions that have to be answered on your website. What problem do you solve? How do you solve it? Will it work for me? And is it worth it? Those 4 questions, you answer those, you're going to be great. All right, I promise you a bonus if you watch to the end of the video here. If you go to coachbuilder.com, you can get a PDF with 27 websites. Jim Williamson is the first website. There are 26 more websites in that PDF. Literally, you just download the PDF and you can scroll through it. You don't even have to fly around on the internet. Just scroll through it and look at all these fantastic websites. It's going to do 2 things for you. It's going to make you want to improve your website, which is going to grow your business. And it's also going to encourage you and inspire you. You're going to look at what these other coaches are doing. And you're going to say, oh, I could add that section, or I got to hire somebody to do better, get a better photograph of me. The bottom line is, at the end of the day, after engaging those websites, you're going to have a much better website yourself because you're going to want to make some changes. If you want to join the Coach Builder community that I've talked about, you can also do that at coachbuilder.com. We are a collection, a giant family of coaches who are helping each other grow their coaching business. You can learn more at coachbuilder.com. All right, here's to you having a great website.